Hi, this is Bill Barnett from C9 HotelWorks. I'm live in the Sandbox in Phuket. We're here to bring you C9 HotelWorks Hotel Market Update Mid-Year Edition. Again, we're here to bring you some data, and hopefully it's going to help hoteliers start planning what's going to happen the rest of the year and what those trends are. I think what's really important is looking at the airlift. You can't stay there if you can't get there. When we look at certainly this year, we're starting to see arrivals back in the marketplace, but those are international arrivals. Airlift is everything. And we're not seeing flights in from Bangkok because of the restrictions, but we are starting to see arrivals every day. In the month of August, about over 500 arrivals a day, passengers arriving internationally for the first time. So that's really important when we go back and look at over 14,000 people arrived in the Sandbox program in the month of July. August is anticipated to be an increase for that. And when we look at September bookings, we are seeing an upward trajectory. But as you can see, it's not going to solve everything. You've got to look back at 2019 and look at back and say, this is where we need to be back. It's going to take a long time to get there. So that's also an important fact. Let's talk about the Russians, because when we look at the Phuket going backwards, we're going to have seasonality again. That's going to be redefined. We have snowbirds that come from Northern Europe, who come from Eastern Europe as well. In 2019, there were over 700,000 Russians who visited Phuket. And again, this is a go-to market. When we look at the high months, we're looking at November, December, January, February, March. Again, these 5 months are peak Russian months because it's snowing, okay? It's incredibly cold in Russia, so come to Phuket. Traditionally, Russians have about 12 days average stay. So again, when we look at the Sandbox, which is 14 days, it's a great fit. So again, we're looking at the approval of Sputnik rolling out this month, which means that Russians will be allowed to come into Sandbox. That's a really important factor when you're marketing your hotels the rest of this year, okay? And again, when we look at airlift, this again tells us exactly what's happening out there. We're only getting international flights. We're not having flights come in from Bangkok right now because of the restrictions, and everybody who's arriving is arriving internationally. Whether they're coming from the Middle East, whether they're coming from Singapore. We've got Hong Kong flights coming as well. But a lot of this traffic's coming from the US, from North America, and also coming from Europe as well, and coming from the Middle East, okay? I think when we look at who our Sandbox travelers are, this is a gateway backwards to Thailand, and we're seeing people use this because there's no quarantine. So rather than go to Bangkok and have quarantine, they're saying, let's do the Sandbox, and then also come to other places in Thailand where they may live, maybe they work as well. So the truth about that is we are seeing a good impact from the Sandbox, but it's not necessarily just tourism. We're seeing people who are Thai residents. We're seeing Thais come back through the Sandbox program. We're seeing people who live and work in Bangkok as well. And again, we're seeing families reunite. So I think there is a sentimental part to the Sandbox as well, saying it is propping up the economy, but it's also bringing people back together, which I think is really the first stage of how we're going to travel again, okay? And again, when we look back at how the seasonality is and everything in terms of flights, and we can see kind of the impact of what happened last year. And certainly it goes down to Phuket can't be sustained with a domestic market only. It just doesn't happen. We're sub 10% domestic market. So there has to be international context to Phuket. Okay, so it makes sense in terms of the Sandbox operating on that basis, okay? And this pretty much says it all because it says where tourism revenue is going. And tourism revenue has bottomed out certainly this year. But I guess the good side is there's a lot of upside moving forward. We're a tourism-dependent island again. We are starting to see at least money come back through Sandbox travelers who are spending money on hotels. People say Sandboxers aren't necessarily tourists, but they're spending money in hotels, they're spending money in restaurants, they're spending money in local establishments, they're bringing jobs back. So we expect that trajectory to start growing again, but it's going to take a long time to get back where we've been, okay? I think hotel performance, again, we go back 2019, how things were. In 2020, strangely enough, in terms of average room rates, because we had the We Travel Together scheme with the Thai government, we actually had good hotel rates, but demand on the other side was very, very slow. Okay, so risk and reward. In reality, if we go and look at 2021, what we're seeing the impact on hotel rates is we're seeing rates much lower because you have a long average length of stay. You have Sandbox travelers coming in for 14 nights. And again, so rates probably about 50% of what we'd expect typically at this time of year. Okay, but room demand, again, we went from single digits. Before the Sandbox was happening, we saw single digit occupancy on the island, and now we're seeing that move up. So again, that is a positive, but getting back to where we're going to have to, it's going to take a long time as well. And again, I think when we look at room night demand, again, we've kind of seen where we're bottoming out. We're starting to see things start to climb back through the Sandbox because this goes through May, June, and the further we go, we're going to see that demand start building, okay? I think in the month of July, we almost had 200,000 room nights, which are coming in. We're going to see sustained growth in that over the next few months, because are we going to go back to where 2019 was? It's going to take 3 to 4 years to get back to these numbers. That's the reality of it as well. One thing that's happened also is there's a lot of hotel rooms in the pipeline in Phuket. We've seen about 2/3 of these hotels now delayed. That makes a lot of sense considering what's happening out there with the COVID situation, with construction workers as well. That is going to see a slowdown in new hotels entering the market. But in terms of our research and C9's new report, not that many have been canceled. We've seen about 13% which have been canceled, okay? And there are some hotels which are continuing to open on the island. So again, there is new product coming. When we're looking at the projects which are postponed, we're probably seeing 2023, 2024, where these projects will come to life and enter the supply stream as well. And I guess if you look at Phuket, you've got to understand that branded residences are a real driver of the hotel supply here as well. We see the total number of rooms, which are also part of mandatory and non-mandatory rental programs. That's going to continue to drive a lot of the hotel growth as well. Again, I guess a caution for us would be if people are expecting guaranteed returns and hitting high levels in terms of individual investors, they're not going to be hitting those numbers for a long time. So again, it's a great lifestyle investment, but it creates another fundamental against pure hotels as well with all these branded residences. So it's going to take time to work through the system and see where demand really goes back to where it used to be in 2018, 2019. I think really, again, looking forward, we say, where is Phuket going the rest of this year? Your guess is as good as mine, okay? At the end of the day, we're seeing the Sandbox. Everybody throughout Southeast Asia and the markets is saying, let's see how you guys are doing it. What's working? The positives for that is allowing people to travel internationally. And our one messaging is you have to learn to live with COVID. We're going to have to learn to travel with COVID, okay? Again, we'll be back to you with more C9 Hotel updates. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also scan our report and download it now. And I'll see you next time from C9 Hotel Works. This is Bill Barnett. Thank you.